Alright, this is Andrew with Joda Home Inspections. Today is June 12th, 2025, and we're doing a sewer scope today here in Centerville. We're at 221 South, 200 East, and we have the camera pushed out 139 feet. We're not yet to the city connection. It's a pretty long line, and I've gone through a couple tight turns. I'm also going through a pretty small access point with a turn right off the bat, which makes it harder and harder to push out as we get this far out into the line. So we're going to pull back and see everything that we can see, but there's going to be a section that we're not able to evaluate. So several different types of pipe here. First, you have gravel cement. You can see the exposed aggregate where the water's kind of wore away and eroded away over time. A little bit of an offset where you can see that joint, kind of a shoulder where waste can get stuck. Bottom right hand side already has some waste stuck. That's a pretty small offset, but especially with gravel cement where it's kind of rough, it still can catch debris on it, which this one already has. Little standing water, so a little bit of bad grade here. Nothing blocking it on the other line, on the other end of the line. Looks like that's purely bad grade. If you had a root or something big on the other side of this puddle, then it could be cleaned out and hopefully the water would just drain. But here, I didn't see any sort of a blockage, and so I think this is truly a belly with only bad grade. The only way to fix that would be to dig it up and re-slope the line. A little bit of a root coming through that joint. I always recommend having roots cleaned out proactively. That way waste doesn't get stuck and create a backup. Now we're transitioning to clay. And it looks like you have an access point in the line. So that hole in the top of the pipe, that's another spot where you could potentially access the line. I didn't see that spot outside, or else I would try to access from there. But you likely have a clean out that's buried. It would have to be located and dug up to access it, most likely. This clay is looking good. Really not much standing water. I haven't seen any significant roots. No big offsets yet. Take another look at that turn and make sure it wasn't dropping into a city line. Looks like what is that, a root or a crack? Left hand side looks like a root. Kind of suspect, but it looks like it kind of splits off in two directions at the bottom, so I think that's a root. So far we've seen gravel cement, we've seen some clay. Next we're going to see some cast iron. Not a ton of it, but definitely some. And the issue with cast iron is it gets really rough and rusty, and it will eventually need to be replaced. And a lot of times it's buried under the house where it's really hard to get to. So we're only 38 feet out. It's possible this is the city line that it's dropped into. I think that would be unlikely with how far away from the road we are. I'll walk it off to be sure, but 38 feet would be a pretty short sewer line. But also I don't know what else would be feeding into the line at that point. Might be worth getting the map from the city to see how far out your line goes. When I pushed my camera through, I went right past that turn. I didn't see that tie-in. Now we're transitioning to cast iron, which in either case, whether that's the nose on going into the city or not, this is certainly your responsibility. And so you have some roots crawling down that left side, pretty rough looking cast, not incredibly long, and then it transitions to ABS, but you certainly have some cast that's looking pretty rough. Here I'd recommend getting a map from the city to really be sure how far out your line goes. It's possible that it's stubbed out from another part of the house, and it's part of your house feeding into that line. It's possible it's a city line or a shared line. With this age of a house, I wouldn't expect to find a shared line with a neighbor, but that's another possibility. There could be an RV dump out in the garage that feeds into it. Could be something like that. So I would get the map, because 38 feet from the back of the house, I don't think that's far enough to get to the street where the city line is typically located. I'm going to end this recording now.